With so many distractions, it's easy to look the other way. But every force for social change requires change makers. Had Martin Luther King Jr. not marched in Selma, had Terry Fox not run across Canada, had Malala Yousafzai not defied the Taliban, had Menachem Begin and Yitzhak Rabin not showed the world there is another way, where would we be today? In her youthful wisdom, Anne Frank told us to not wait a single minute before changing the world. And Mahatma Gandhi, he said, we must see the change that begins with ourselves. And despite this optimism, we're all concerned about the troubles in our world. And there are many. We weep as the world limps from crisis to crisis. The wars, the carnage, the hate, the intolerance, these are made by humanity. They do not just happen beyond our control. We make it. And thus, the timeless message of Simon Wiesenthal is be alert. Never take your freedom for granted. Act. Don't be silent. Because no matter your status, your wealth, your influence, hatred and fury, they don't discriminate. Holocaust survivors sitting amongst us attest to this. And that's why they dedicate themselves every single day to telling their stories over and over and over again so it doesn't happen again. But they often ask me, who will speak for us when we are gone? And all I can do is I promise them, we will. We will. Still, the young generation of today tells us that the Holocaust, it's passé. They tell us it's no longer relevant. And sadly, an American study found that 22% of millennials haven't heard of the Holocaust. And 41% of them believe only 2 million or less were murdered. And it gets worse. 66% could not identify what Auschwitz was. So why should we be surprised by the surge of Holocaust denial and anti-Semitism? That over 1 billion people on this planet hold anti-Semitic views, according to one study. Why were we shocked when Nazis marched last summer in Charlottesville, shouting, quote, "Jews will not replace us"? And here at home, seeing the words, "Hitler was right," scrawled on Highway 400 on an overpass there. It's 2018, and venerating Hitler shows pure ignorance. After all, 40,000 Canadians were killed and 100,000 were wounded in action fighting the Nazis. So in fact, the lessons of the Holocaust are not passé. They are more relevant, especially in an era where values of diversity, of inclusivity, and coexistence are promoted. We are at the forefront of teaching these values. Our organization proudly guards the eternal flame of memory in one hand and works to improve the world in the other. That's our task. It is our vested interest that everyone, no matter their religion, color, creed, sexual orientation, everyone believes in the universality of human rights. What the world is looking for, I believe, is for inspiration, for leadership, and a moral compass. We can and we are creating an entire generation of people, of Canadians, who will carry forward our promise to Holocaust survivors. And so we've developed a number of educational tools to do this. First, we reach more diverse communities through our mobile classroom, the Tour for Humanity. We deploy across the province, reaching 1,000 students per week, whose first interaction with our community is a message of peace, of compassion, and of kindness. In the last few weeks alone, we visited Timmins, Sudbury, Sault Ste. Marie, Thunder Bay, countless of towns in between. We build bridges with communities, friendships with teachers, and new role models for students. Second, we believe that celebrating diversity and inclusion should also include Jewish students. We will not tolerate flags of Israel being removed from schools and Jewish students made to feel secondary or less proud of their Jewish heritage on university campuses. That is why last week we stood up for the Jewish students at Forest Hill Collegiate. And that is why, thank you. That is why we wrote and we published the first ever Canadian Guide to Jewish Heritage Month, which we launched in Parliament just 2 weeks ago. Third, we believe that promoting Canadian values of freedom and democracy is good for everyone. That's why we have hosted 40,000 students to date at Freedom Day at Dundas Square. Even while our message is grounded in the Holocaust, we invite students from all religions, cultures, and backgrounds to meet changemakers, First Nations activists, former child soldiers, anti-bullying leaders, Holocaust survivors, to empower and teach valuable lessons of humanity. And fourth, if you ever, and this is true, if you ever are feeling down about humanity, as sometimes we all are, I'm sure, Speaker's Idol is an event that will give you hope. Hundreds of Ontario students apply and compete to our annual speech competition about critical issues: free speech, racism and anti-Semitism, women's rights, technology, the environment, mental health, you name it, genocide, Holocaust. In fact, some of those finalists are here with us tonight. And finally, my friends, we have the highest respect for frontline responders and professionals. We've taken over 150 chiefs of police and Board of Education members to the camps in Poland and to Israel. In fact, on July 1st, together with Max Eisen and Melissa Michael, I'll be leading our 9th delegation. The impact of this program has been unimaginable. You can see in this room just how many chiefs there are and educators, including the Commissioner of the OPP, Vince Hawkes, and we thank them all. I believe that the greatest impact we're making is through education, influence, and social change. There's countless of stories. I could stand here and talk to you all night, but I want to share with you one thing, because you saw the choir here on stage. Well, you know, there's a story behind it, because it's the Etobicoke School of the Arts, and they decided on their own accord they're going to donate, and they donated $4,000 from one of their plays. They wanted to donate it specifically to Holocaust education. And as you saw, they performed Hatikva unbelievably tonight. We're proud to carry Simon Wiesenthal's legacy, even when it's on Facebook, where we've just reached 7.6 million impressions and 300,000 interactions. On any given day, we're cited in the media 1 to 5 times. And for those who come after us with hatred, with denial, with boycotts, with mistruths, destructive behavior, they fail to understand that we have never surrendered to this before. Simon Wiesenthal stayed in Vienna after the war to hunt Nazis. He refused to surrender to injustice. We don't surrender because our longevity as a people is based on morality and ethics and on the universal ideals of freedom and justice for all, and on tikva, hope that humanity can be better. People who build and produce, they want to be the first in line to help. Ever notice that? They opened their hearts. Martin Luther King Jr. said, quote, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." That hope is tied to our connection with the State of Israel. Having recently returned from the 70th anniversary celebrations with members of the Friends of Simon Wiesenthal Center, what we saw is a country full of pride and optimism. Its youth look to the future brightly, building, developing, inventing, and serving in its military with decorum. Like a phoenix, the Jewish people rose again in spite of the Holocaust. They persevered and they prevailed. And now, with our innate relentless to pursue tikkun olam, we are in the final construction stages of our new home in the capital of Israel, the Museum of Tolerance, Jerusalem. And so each year we try and grow our circle just a little more. We visit more schools, meet more people, create more programs, extend more olive branches, all with the hope that we must leave this world better than it was before we came into it. Many years ago, Israeli Prime Minister Rabin said to Jordan's King Hussein, quote, "We have both seen too much suffering. What will you leave your children? What will I leave my grandchildren? I have only dreams to build a better world, a world of understanding and harmony, a world in which it is a joy to live." Thank you. Thank you.